So next, we will be having multiple people come on and present, very exciting, about the importance of establishing a wine grape pest and disease control district in Sonoma County. So I'd like to take a moment and say that I'm definitely very supportive of this. And as David Haviland said yesterday in his presentation, having a pest control district has allowed him to conduct a lot of research specifically that addresses the issues of the grape growers in his counties. So there is a group of us putting forth this idea of forming a pest control district in Sonoma County and how it can benefit everyone, PCAs and growers and owners, the industry as a whole. Napa County has a pest control district, and there are a lot of benefits that Monica Cooper will be touching on today. And with that, Jason, are you going to be, who's going to be sharing a presentation first? So we have Jason Sailing, who is the Chair Pro Tem, Sonoma County Pest Control District Coalition, and the president of Sonoma County Vineyard Technical Group. We have Andrew Smith, who is the Agricultural Commissioner, Sonoma County Department of Agricultural Weights and Measures. We have Dr. Monica Cooper, is Napa County A&R Advisor in Viticulture, UC Cooperative Extension. And we have Katey Taylor, who is a Regional Viticulturist, Napa Sonoma for Constellation Brands, that will be talking today on this subject. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Cindy. I'm going to lead this out. So let me try to get this going. Just a second ago, I was having a panic attack with sharing my screen. So everybody can see this, looks like.
I don't see a screen yet.
Oh, you don't. Hold on. Where's the
share screen should be at the bottom.
Trying to, oh, now it's mirroring the screens here. So let me get rid of this, escape, and go back to share screen. Share. Can you see that?
I can do presenter view.
And then this.
Perfect.
Great. Okay. So let me get started here. If I can find my notes. Okay. So what are you guys seeing? Slide 2 here. Okay. Can you see that? Slide 1. Andrew, give me a thumbs up if that looks fine.
I can see it. I'm not sure if it's on presenter view. So I don't know if the audience can see both the first slide.
I see everything. So it's not a presenter view.
Okay.
Yeah. So
share. And
you can go into the oh, there you go.
Okay, great. Thanks. Sorry about that, everyone. And thank you, Cindy. I know, hello, everyone. I'm Jason Sailing. I'm the vineyard manager at Lynmar Estate in Sebastopol. I'm also the president of the Sonoma County Vineyard Technical Group, a group that hopefully all of you are members of. And I'm also serving right now as the Chair Pro Tem of the Sonoma County Pest Control District Coalition. We have 4 of us, obviously, speaking in this half hour about the effort to establish a pest control district in Sonoma County. So I have to be quick. And if it sounds like I'm reading my notes, it's because you just saw them. I am, and simply to keep me on time. I want to thank Katey Taylor, Monica Cooper, and Andrew Smith for joining this panel presentation today. And Cindy, all the work that you've been putting in on this as well. And we'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so as we heard yesterday, and as you just alluded to, Cindy, David Haviland's extraordinary presentation on Mealybug yesterday and the research in Kern County was largely funded by their Table Grape Pest Control District. Today, we'll hear about Napa County's work on identifying and the efforts to control vine mealybug. The major emphasis today is on how this work gets done. And since we should all clearly understand why this work needs to be done, we don't need to duplicate research. Those are the notes we can share, but we all do need to replicate the efforts to identify our wine grape pests, research the impacts and science that we don't understand, and have a mechanism like a grower funded and run pest control district to source and apply wisdom gained from such research. While we're hearing about them now, the concept may sound novel to some. Let's look back to the 1800s in order to understand the true significance of pest control districts. Basically, from the very introduction of modern agriculture in California, as non-native crops were introduced to our farms, their pests came right along with them, being non-native plants like our beloved Vitis vinifera, primary pests were introduced to California hitching rides on their favorite crops, but without their natural predators. Before chemical control was introduced, the most fundamental practice for pest control was crop inspection and eradication, period. Expensive and messy, to say the least. All the early codes developed for pest control centered on detection and eradication. But after a while, farmers got savvy. As farms grew in size and scope, so did the recognition of all the various myriad pests. Revision after revision to the power of local agencies were granted, but it was all still centered on inspections and eradication. By 1911, things started to change. The state ordered a board of horticultural examiners to include the state commissioner of horticulture, still in charge of inspections and eradication, the dean of the University of California, obviously to disseminate findings from and serving as a research center, and third, the superintendent of the state insectary. The insectary building still stands in Sacramento, but transportation, distribution, and specialization of rearing specific predatory insects for specific regions led to regional insectaries. And of course, as we now have highly refined commercial insectaries, this building was converted to offices, but the historical relevance is still honored today, and it stands as an official National Historical Monument. Here's a picture of one of the rearing rooms inside of that original insectary. I just think that's so cool. Regional branches began opening up, the first of which was in Ventura County in 1919. And the most successful and storied of all of the insectaries in California was established by the Fillmore Citrus Protective District in 1926. That operated actually until the slump of the Valencia orange market in early 2005. The most interesting story about the FCPD was its establishment to use biological control to address Citrophilus mealybug, and it reached an assessment level of $4 per acre by 1952. However, in 1952, the district attempted to shift to organophosphates as a preferred method of control. Less than a decade later, 1961, the growers recognized that they had not only lost control of mealybug, but the chemical measures had also increased the pressure from red and yellow scale by killing their predators as well. And the assessment had risen to $21 an acre in an attempt to use chemical control. The district came under fire, reverted to biological control, and by the end of 1961, was able to lower its assessment back down to $6 per acre. As a true story. This is a cool photo from 1911 of a Studebaker electric truck, by the way, on its way to the state fair with a load of insects reared at that state insectary in Sacramento. On the side, it reads, larger crops, cleaner fruit, less cost. Proven success leads to copycats of the model, not just biological control, but more importantly, collaborative effort to control pests region-wide. Here's a list of current pest and disease control districts operating throughout California today. You see Napa County on here, and here's the Table Grape Pest Control District that David was speaking from yesterday. Law exists for us to establish one of our own. Oh, did I skip a slide? Nope. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, law exists for us to establish one of our own since 1993 with an assessment cap of $5 per acre. In Sonoma County, with nearly 60,000 acres of wine grapes, that would give a grower-run pest control district board nearly $300,000 a year to work with on similar programs as we're hearing about these past 2 days. Napa took the initiative to establish their own in 2001 under the threat of the Glasswing Sharpshooter, and has been operating very successfully for the last 2 decades. We'll hear about that next. Oh, and Sonoma County also needs to be next. At the same webinar so how does this get done? I'll run through this real quick. I got about 45 seconds. At the same webinar last year, after me not knowing how to exactly get started for 4 months prior, when after Tony Crabb from Puma Springs Vineyard had asked me to look into this, Cindy and I posted a slide during our break with an email address asking for volunteers to help in the effort to begin the work to form pest control district here in Sonoma County. Katey Taylor actually was the first respondent to that. A handful of us got together after that meeting and we got to work. First stop for us was to try to figure out the process. And as we heard David Haviland yesterday, he actually got on the line with us last December, gave us some really solid advice. Here's an overview of the steps we've been following. The yellow highlighted boxes indicate items were already passed. As all of us know here, vine mealybug poses a real threat to the sustainability of our work, but like all wine growing regions, we recognize vine mealybug is only one of our current challenges, and there's more on the way. So we're talking about this in context of all wine grape pests and diseases. We needed to check if the law didn't exist. We'd need to go through that at the state level, as I just mentioned. One does, and you can find that in the Food and Ag Code. It's section 6200 through 6290, California Wine Grape Pest and Disease Control District law. We've met with all the various county agencies already. Thank you, Andrew, for facilitating those meetings. And we're now at the point of preparing the petition for the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors. We'll be mailing this out to landowners at the beginning of next year. And I think it's our responsibility as vineyard managers, viticulturists, PCAs, landowners, wine grape buyers, winemakers, researchers, general public, and essentially anyone that's on this webinar right now to advocate for the sanctity of the industry upon which we depend for our livelihoods. As they say about your children and your own healthcare, it's time to be your own advocate. With that, I just want to put up this slide here and thank everybody who's been contributing to this effort over the past year. List names here that you can read through, and I want to give a huge thank you and shout out to all of them and get this turned over to Katey. She's the president of the Napa County Wine Grape Pest Control District and also the regional viticulturist for Napa and Sonoma counties for Constellation brands. So thank you, everyone.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Jason. So I will try to make this very quick as well. So again, my name is Katey, and I'm the regional viticulturist for Constellation in both Napa and Sonoma. I also have the privilege of being the current chairperson for the Napa County Wine Grape and Pest Control District. I can get my slides to progress here. Sorry, just one second. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay. So a little bit of history about the Napa Pest Control District. In 2000, there were severe losses due to Pierce's disease caused by Glasswing Sharpshooter. It was quickly realized that the money coming from CDFA at the state level was not going to be enough to combat the issue in Napa County. There was an urgent need again to protect Napa County's vineyard and wine industry. It contributes more than $9 billion to the state economy annually. And there was really a recognition that an alliance needed to be created with agriculture leaders and growers within Napa.
Katey, can you put it in presenter view?
Sure.
Click the slideshow start, because we can see each of your successive slides. There you go. Perfect.
There we go. It's advancing. Okay. So again, there was recognition that we needed to provide funding for the inspection, detection, prevention, and education about Pierce's disease, really trying to prevent the movement of Glasswing Sharpshooter and thereby Pierce's disease moving throughout the county. The district was formed by a vote of growers in March of 2002. And in 2006, Napa County growers voted to expand the district to include programs to detect additional wine grape pests and diseases, again, quickly moving beyond the Glasswing Sharpshooter. Happy to say that next March, it'll be 20 years that we celebrate the anniversary of the formation of the district in Napa County. It was a very lengthy process. It did take 2 years and is a legal ordinance. But again, nonetheless, Sonoma County is ready to go to petition. So how did the wine grape district really operate? And I put together this pyramid. The foundation is really the Napa County wine grape growers. There's over 43,000 acres of grapes within the county. It's the growers that pay the annual assessment that supports the funding, but it is very much a cooperative effort with the Napa County Agriculture Commissioner's Office, the Napa County Cooperative Extension. There is a board of directors. The board of directors is appointed through an application process, and directors are appointed by the Napa County Board of Supervisors to represent different growing regions throughout the county. A board member has to be an owner of wine grape vineyards or an authorized representative of a grower. And everything that we do is through the Brown Act, which is the Public Records Act. So all of our business is conducted in a very public manner. Everything, public meetings, public comment, records, everything is very transparent with everything that we do. This is a little bit of the history of the historical assessment. Our current assessment is $9.15 per planted acre in Napa County. Our bylaws are actually written so there's a cap. It will never exceed $20 per acre. But again, our current assessment is $9.15 in Napa. This shows our current budget for the fiscal year 21-22. Again, we have approximately $400,000 of annual income that comes from the grower assessment. And the board of director, based on input from our constituents, it's our responsibility to come up with a plan and a budget of how best to spend those dollars. So about $100,000 are spent on education and outreach. $105,000 this year we have allocated to Glasswing, Sharpshooter, and Pierce's disease. That's a cost share where the Agriculture Commissioner's Office through state and county monies actually matches that $100,000. So we actually essentially double that money in the effort to fight Pierce's disease and Glasswing Sharpshooter. We're spending $125,000 on European grapevine moth, $43,000 on vine mealybug work plan, and $88,000 on vine mealybug parasitic release, with a very small amount going to the administrative costs of the district. These are some sample activities supported by the funding of the Napa County Pest Control District. Monica Cooper, the next speaker, is going to go into more details about the inspection programs, base level trapping, our vine mealybug work plan, outreach, and the research that we help support. Again, we all know vine mealybug is just one of many serious pests, not just in Napa, but also in Sonoma. And the exciting thing for me is if we can combine efforts and leverage the research between Napa, Sonoma, the North Coast, other pest control districts, we can really stretch our dollars and have great research and outcome for growers. We haven't forgotten about the elusive vectors that we've all been hearing about, red blotch. This is something the Pest Control District actively supports. And we are spending some of our research dollars to support those efforts. We're also shifting focus a bit to look at powdery mildew, the resistance, testing, quicker identification of the disease in the field. We can't forget about the Glasswing Sharpshooter, which is currently in Vacaville, so knocking at our doors once again. So we've relaunched a great effort for education and outreach regarding Glasswing Sharpshooter in the North Bay. And I think that's it in a nutshell about the Napa County Wine Grape Pest and Disease Control District. Again, celebrating our 20th anniversary next year. If anybody has any questions, there's my name and number, and happy to share more. And hopefully that you too will join in on one of our Zoom meetings to listen to our quarterly pest control district meetings. Again, they're open to the public. Anyone is invited to attend and to give input onto the work that we are doing. So thank you so much.
All right, good morning, everyone. And I'm going to talk briefly about some of the details of the projects the Pest Control District is working on. So let's see. Okay, so, attending the seminar today, there's clearly a fair amount of uncertainty and risk in agriculture that we're very familiar with. Those come from both abiotic or environmental factors, drought, wildfire, hail, as well as pests and diseases are biotic factors, and they have economic implications. And when we're talking about management, it's really a matter of risk reduction, right? So we're trying to reduce our risk and keep a stable economic environment for our industry. And there are several things, including technical factors, social factors, and economic factors that go into management. So from a technical standpoint, you're going to need knowledge. So that's why we're here today, right? Learning about the most recent advances in pest and disease management. You're here today because your organizational structure supports a learning environment. Not all of them are supportive of learning and adoption of new technologies. And then, of course, there are the economic factors and whether what we're trying to implement is going to have a good return on investment. So in 2019, we surveyed a population of the industry from the North Coast and looked at the various ways in which knowledge is acquired, including, formal seminars and lectures or webinars such as today, information that is published in trade journals or newsletters, informal social networks. So you run into your colleague at this, coffee shop or even across the fence out in the vineyard, and there's informal exchange of information, and then also more formal events such as field days, workshops, and replicated research trials. Other important things include government or industry standards. So what we mean by that would be programs that ensure certified plant material, monitoring programs to make sure that you're detecting new or invasive insects, or you're monitoring the spread of insects that you're already aware of. And then there are all these other factors around regional management and cooperation between growers. And so the beauty of pest control districts, as both Jason and Katey talked about, is that they're this unique public and private partnership that is hyper local. So we're able to address issues that are very, very pertinent to the industry under the situations in which we're encountering them. So this isn't research done, in Mississippi. This is work that's done in our own backyards. The public is providing the government and industry standards, doing a lot of research and outreach, and also funding. Whereas the private sector is really a key to get that knowledge that we have into practice. Great for advocacy, as you can see everybody advocating for the Sonoma Pest District, networking, private funding as well, and the oversight and relevance that the board plays in determining which programs are going to be funded by the pest district. So I'm going to highlight two pests that the Napa district has been working on, including vine mealybug and Glasswing Sharpshooter. One of the things that Napa is doing is a countywide network of traps for vine mealybug. Those traps have been in place since 2012, and there are 25 of them per square mile that are monitored annually from August to October, allowing us to track populations across a broad area of vine mealybug. And then those data are annually uploaded to the county's ag commissioner's website and publicly available. So while you can't online see incredible amount of detail, you can tell within your neighborhood whether vine mealybug males have been detected or not, and by category, how many of them. As Katey said, the pest district also funds monitoring of Glasswing Sharpshooter. The state monitoring program covers urban areas, but we know that there are also high-risk areas within the agricultural footprint that need to be monitored. So around wineries or places where some nurseries or some plants have come into the county. And so we're monitoring around those new plantings. In fact, my neighbors planted some plants, and then about a week later, a trap showed up in our front yard, and we knew it was because those nursery plants had come from out of the county, and the county process was to monitor a trap for 6 weeks after that. The other thing that the pest district does along with the agricultural commissioner's office is inspect incoming plant material, including grapevines and other nursery plants. and enforce nursery standards. So when Glasswing Sharpshooter eggs are found, then the ag commissioner is able to go to the county of origin of those plants and have conversations with that local ag commissioner's office and the nursery that was involved in the shipment. There's also been a lot of research projects that have been funded by the pest district. One of those that I'm just going to talk about really briefly is looking at risk factors for spread of vine mealybug, which was a collaboration that I worked on with a colleague, Matt Doherty at UC Riverside. And we looked at environmental and also human mediated factors. So how fruit moves around, distance to roadways and that sort of thing to determine what the greatest risk factors are for spread of vine mealybug. And we found that a proximity to a vine mealybug infested vineyard was the greatest risk factor. So that means that countywide trapping that we're doing is really important because it tells you how close vine mealybug is to you, where it is in your neighborhood, and from there, what the risk is of it spreading into your vineyard. As Katey already mentioned, we've also done regional mating disruption trials, as well as releases of Anagyrus pseudococci, which is the main parasitoid of vine mealybug. The pest district also does a lot of education and outreach. So everything from formal seminars and lectures to workshops and field days, and fact sheets, newsletters, videos, webinars. We've hit many of the really important tools that the industry has identified for knowledge acquisition. And so I hope you can see from this presentation that pest districts are really important in many different aspects, from pest detection and prevention through to research to close knowledge gaps, into supporting regional programs, trapping, biocontrol releases, and then to help support education and outreach and make sure that information is accessible and promoting cooperation within a region. So thank you. And I'll pass it on to Andrew now.
Thank you, Monica. And just before we lose the opportunity to do it after this presentation, I just want to thank Cindy and her staff and everyone that's been responsible for putting on this seminar over the last 2 days. It's invigorating and motivating to hear all the research. And I also want to thank our department staff that has participated in this and spoke earlier about the laws and regs update. You know, wouldn't it be great to have the detailed mapping and population number data on vine mealybug in Sonoma County so we can make really applicable decisions in vineyard management on our side of the hill? Thanks again also to Jason for identifying the horticultural commissioner system, which became the ag commissioner system, started in 1881. And for those of you that don't know, the main goal of agricultural commissioners and legal mandate is to promote and protect agriculture and prevent the introduction and spread of injurious pests, weeds, and diseases. The goal of a pest control district is beneficial to that and synergistic to that effort. And it is to support efforts in managing, limiting the spread, and providing for research on excuse me, and related to important known pests of economic importance to a given agricultural industry. The pests and diseases are impactful to the success and sustainability of that industry and to the benefits they reach beyond that industry to other agricultural crops and industries throughout the county and the state. Furthermore, pest control districts and their work in mitigating economic pest damage and researching the population dynamics and ecology of the pests and diseases serves to build resiliency in agriculture and natural resource management. What we're talking about here is a grower-driven opportunity to collaborate and cooperate with state regulatory agency partners and academic researchers so that everyone benefits. Everyone has access to the information and are in a position to make more economically efficient decisions in pest management. Of particular concern to many growers and community members is the sustainable and integrated pest management that leads to reduced risk pesticide use and more holistic management across a landscape. For those of you that have had to deal with vine mealybug, You understand that once you get vine mealybug in your vineyard, you're getting on a pest management treadmill, and your pest management practices just became a bit more involved with monitoring not only the pest itself, but the ants, which researchers spoke about in yesterday's session, and then mating disruption, and ultimately the well-timed use of certain pesticide products in order to maintain the marketability of your crop. We would not be able to benefit from the long-term research provided to us in yesterday's session if it were not for the Table Grape Pest Control District in the Southern San Joaquin Valley and the Napa County Wine Grape Pest Control District, both of which have been able to undertake long-term research in trapping, mapping, ancillary organism study, and control methodologies. From a funding perspective for pest management, it is difficult for regulatory agencies to go out and ask for more money to continue work on known and rated pests and diseases, especially long-term funding to learn more. For that reason, a pest control district is advantageous in that it is a known and reliable source of funding to manage and study both known pests as well as emerging pests and diseases that may be a problem in the future. One pest that comes to mind is the spotted lanternfly, which has been determined to be a pest of economic importance in Pennsylvania and is spreading to other states. This pest has a specific host association with tree of heaven, but also has an affinity to grapevines and has already become an issue in Pennsylvania vineyards. Numerous dead adults have been encountered on cargo shipments entering California, and while we have not had any live specimens encountered, we feel it's only a matter of time. USDA has an invasive species funding for quarantine pests like spotted lanternfly. And while we are actively advocating for funding for this pest in California for survey trapping and beginning work on this pest, but currently we're not slated to receive any of that funding. Our federal agency partners reactively put money where the pest problems are now, and it's not where it's likely going. Additionally, once a quarantine pest has been resolved, and when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about European grapevine moth, the funding decreases over time and is eventually eliminated. So if ongoing pest trapping and surveying is desired, then it will need to be supported by growers on their own. A Sonoma County Pest and Disease Control District will serve to promote and protect the long-term sustainability of our industry by ensuring that our integrated pest management activity remains resilient to climate change while fostering reduced risk pesticide use and protecting not only our agriculture, but our natural resources as well. Can you do it on your own? Yes, of course you can. But to utilize the TEAM acronym, together everyone achieves more. And that's the goal of establishing a Sonoma County Pest and Disease Control District. Thanks very much for the time today.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you everyone on this presentation. Jason, Andrew, Monica, and Katey. If there's any questions, you guys can post in the Q&A, and I believe the people on the panel will stick around and be able to answer your questions.